Hello.
Good morning.
Good
I'm Jen,
morning. I'm Kimberly, and this is
and
That
this
Vegan
is
Morning
the
Show.
Pigeon Morning Show. Hey, we did it in sync this time.
We did. Good morning, Jen. How are you? Sue, how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thank you.
I'm doing good, and we're really excited to have you here today with us. Sue is a very amazing person to have as a guest. But before we dive into that, Kimberly, how was your weekend?
Yeah, well, let's first say good morning to Richard from New Jersey. Hi, Richard. Thanks for joining us. I think you're going to
Morning,
enjoy this
Richard.
conversation. It's gonna be super fun. My weekend was great. Yesterday we went to a AA minor league baseball game. For it was one of the minor leagues for my beloved Mets and the Yankees. But and the team, the Rumble Ponies that I was rooting for, they lost, which made me sad. But it was very exciting to see some of the prospects that I've heard a lot about, and guys that could be coming up onto the main roster, in the next couple of years, which is always super cool. But we had a great time. It was very hot, but we chose our seats well, and we got the shade before half of the ballpark did, so it was good.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I remember you told me you ordered a really cool hat for the
Yeah, I
game.
love their logo. They're called the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, and their logo is like this really badass carousel horse. And I didn't know why. So I happened to look it up at the game as JP and I were talking about it, and it turns out that Binghamton, New York, is the carousel capital of the world. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It is
Who
pretty
knew?
cool. I grew up in Syracuse, which is an hour from Binghamton, and I didn't know that until you told me this morning. So
So I guess it's not very well known.
apparently not. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, I had a very jam-packed weekend. I saw the Flaming Lips in concert, which I wanted to see them for like decades. I feel old saying that. So saw them. Modest Mouse opened, or they were like co-headlining with them. It was a great show. Saturday, I drove my son to New Jersey to see his grandmother, and I got to see my sister along the way. We had like a quick coffee before she had to start to work. And I saw one of my nephews who I haven't seen in like 3 years. So that was fun. It was a very productive hour of catching up with family.
Sounds like
And then and then yesterday, my husband and I went to Storm King Art Center, which is an outdoor sculpture park about 30 minutes away from me here in the Hudson Valley. And it was very hot, like you said, Kimberly. We melted, but there was a lot of shade too. And it's a really nice place to go. So next time, I think I'm going to save sculpture parks for the fall.
Good plan. Sue, how was your weekend?
Yeah, but it's warm out there. It's been warm out here actually. It's been quite warm out here. So, well, I am a workaholic, so I don't generally have time off. So my weekend was working. Surprise, surprise. So Saturday I did some outreach, and we raised some funds for the Little Green Pigeon, the not-for-profit I run. And then what did I do on Sunday? Oh, I had 3 hours off and went to see my friend on Sunday. But then, had some conversations. We're being chased by the police for stealing birds at the moment, which isn't true. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. So I've been having some conversations to get some legal advice over that at the weekend. And then getting things ready for Vegan Camp Out because we've got a stand there. And then I was up till about midnight doing some artwork for some new T-shirts for Camp Out. So that was exciting. And my son does a lot of the artwork for us, which is brilliant. He's up in North Wales, so a good couple of hours away, so it's all done remotely. But yeah, he did some absolutely incredible artwork. So that came over. I think I got that at midnight. So it got onto the T-shirts about 3 o'clock this morning. So it was a busy weekend. It was good.
Nice.
Paddleboarding. Right. Yeah, I'm right on the coast here. So we went paddleboarding as well, which is always nice. So it was good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about this, but when you create t-shirts, and I know I've seen like beanies with the little green pigeon logo and stuff, like do you guys ship outside the US or just within, or outside the UK,
Yeah,
or just
yeah,
within the UK?
yeah,
Okay.
all over the world. The shipping
Good.
to America at the moment is
Mm,
absolutely obscene. We have to, I don't know what it would be in dollars, but I know it's about £30, which is a lot of money. When you think a t-shirt is 22
yeah.
to a consumer, so it costs more to ship than it does. So we do shipping sort of everywhere really, but I always say to people, and it says it on the website, if you want to buy something from us, just get in touch and we'll get a big order together for you and then try and find the cheapest way to ship it. But yeah, shipping's obscene at the moment. So technically yes, but we don't do many orders outside the UK anymore. We used to do loads, but because of Brexit and then the price of delivery, not so much now, which is a shame.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we dive in too much, I want to introduce you, Sue, to all of our viewers. So,
Thank
Sue
you.
Joyce is the founder of Little Green Pigeon, a national UK organization with two core aims: to raise funds to support rehabilitators caring for pigeons and to campaign for a UK-wide ban on pigeon racing. After running a pigeon sanctuary for over 15 years, Sue launched Little Green Pigeon to take her advocacy to the next level. In 2025, she founded the National Pigeon Advocacy Association, and together, the two organizations are set to host the world's first Pigeon Advocacy Conference in Staffordshire, England, in September 2025. Sue speaks at festivals and events across the UK, raising awareness about pigeon welfare and the exploitation of birds in sport and industry. She's also the co-host of the Bloody Vegans podcast, alongside her co-host and editor, Jim Moore. In June 2025, Sue co-founded the Animal Rights Choir with her best friend, Vegan Queen V, an in-person and online community choir created to empower people to find and raise their voices for animals. The choir now performs at festivals and animal rights events across the UK. And finally, in addition to her advocacy work, Sue also works part-time for the Vegan Business Mastermind, an online mentorship program supporting vegan entrepreneurs. So, you're certainly a busy lady, Sue.
That's what I'm always saying. Oh, but when you're passionate about everything you're doing and when it's for a cause, it doesn't feel like work. Like
Right.
genuinely nothing I do feels like work.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'd be lying if I said it was.
Me and Kimberly can relate to this because we have day jobs and we each have our own stuff. Kimberly has Did You Bring the Hummus? I have the Confident Vegan. And then we get up very early and do this at 7 a.m., every Monday. And we have so much energy for when we show up on here. When we were creating the show before we launched it, we're like, oh my God, how are we going to get up and function?
Mm-hmm.
And when we just connect on here, we have the energy. We're excited. We're like flowing. It's great. It's like the best time of the week.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and that's how it should be, isn't it? Absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. But still, I don't know how you do it with all the things you do. I think you do so much amazing work. And yeah,
But I don't have a full-time job like you guys do. Like I have lots of little jobs. So it's a lot easier for me, trust me. You guys have got full-time jobs and you're doing this. So yeah.
But we're all doing important work and
yeah,
there's so much that with veganism that goes beyond food and what goes on the plate. It's what goes on with animals and all aspects of life. And your work with pigeons, like I've learned so much from you. I've had you on the Confident Vegan last year, and I learned so much from you about pigeons. And so, Sue, can you share a little bit about why pigeons get a bad rap?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. Yeah, I've been on both of your podcasts and both were fantastic. I enjoyed them really. And yeah, thank you for saying that about learning from me. And actually, that was highlighted yesterday afternoon. One of the things I did do yesterday afternoon was rehome a pigeon that was being looking after over here by a local carer, and they couldn't connect with the person who's going to have this bird long term. So I was the intermediary. So I went and collected a bird and drove yesterday afternoon, just a couple of hours away down to the south of Wales with this bird. Now, this bird is going to a new home where the lady only started looking after pigeons in September last year. And she has learned so much and she knows what she's doing and she's great. I wouldn't have let the bird go there. Otherwise, really nice lady. We've been chatting and I was really confident that she's going to look after this wonderful little pigeon that came in. But when we were talking in a Tesco car park, a supermarket car park, when we did the handover, we just got chatting about this, that and the other. And I just still kind of assume that people know what the problem is with pigeon racing and why pigeons need our help. And she said something and I thought, she doesn't know. And I had to break it to her why these birds are so abused and why they do need our help. And this is someone who's already looking after them. And she was horrified at what I told her. So there's a few different things, but the main take from that is that it's really hidden. The abuse to pigeons all over the world is really hidden. So that example, because literally people who are looking after them don't know the extent to which these animals are abused. So if we think about horse racing or racing of dogs, which I don't know how big a thing that is in the States, but in this country, it used to be quite a big thing, greyhound racing. It's obvious. You can see it. You can go to a stadium and pay to watch it. You can bet on it. And most people know that horses are raced. And most people, whether they agree or disagree with that sport, they will agree that they know what happens to an extent. With pigeon racing, it's so hidden that firstly, most people don't know that there is a sport called pigeon racing. And the second thing is when you see a load of pigeons fly above your head, you just assume that, oh, isn't that lovely? They're having a great time. They're flying around. People don't realize that those birds are fighting for their lives. And that's what they're doing. They're fighting to get back. And I can go into that in more detail, but that's the main thing that people don't realize is there is this blood sport in the UK and all over the world. It's huge in so many countries. And the second thing is the pigeons in the town and city streets, like in America and over here, they are not native wild birds. They are kind of wild now, but that's because they're the ancestors of domestic animals. They're the ancestors of domestic birds. So in the UK, we do have wild pigeons, as you do over there, and as you do all over the world. There are lots of different types, lots of different species of pigeon, but the majority of the pigeons that we see over here come from domestic birds that have been abandoned. And again, that's what most people don't realise. So there's a few reasons to fight for them. One of the reasons that I'll just go into now, and then we don't need to touch on it again, is actually that I feel that pigeons, certainly in the UK and America, are a good step into veganism. And that's because they are everywhere. And that's because people don't realise they're domestic animals that were bred for meat and eggs. So if you can get somebody out on the street who's doing their shopping to see the pigeons and watch their body language and watch their little social groups and see what's going on and not feel sorry for them, but feel emotional towards them and think, oh, aren't they amazing little creatures? And they're doing this and they're doing that. And then you break it to them that we abandoned them there. You can plant a seed about vegan thinking. You can make them think, oh, hang on a minute, yeah, we did that, and they're suffering because of us. And I think that's why there's kind of two things for me with pigeons. One is the abuse and the fact that they need looking after, but also, as I say, that stepping stone into veganism. And that's certainly something that I, as a vegan, didn't realize until I learned more. My eyes were closed to pigeons suffering for a long time. The same as the fact that I was vegetarian a long time, not vegan, my eyes were closed to the suffering all over. So yeah, it's really hidden. And that's why I'm here shouting about it constantly.
I remember, like, maybe not the first time I was in New York City, but I remember going into the city with friends as like a teenager, early 20s, and there always seemed to be one person who thought it was hilarious that to call pigeons feathered rats, and to kind of, as if you're walking through a collection of pigeons, to kind of kick at them. And like, so, those people are not in my life anymore and haven't been for a very long time. But this view of them as being pests, when, like you said, we brought them here, we domesticated them, we made them dependent on us, and then we just pushed them out. When we learned how to deliver mail differently, right? We didn't need them to carry messages and things, and then And if they're not earning you money because you're racing them, then what do you need them for? And so they get pushed out, and now they live almost like I've seen some birders describe them more as like feral than wild, because
Yes.
they are still like domesticated. It's not completely bred out of them. And they're like living amongst people and are more trusting around people, and sometimes very often to their detriment. And now as I have learned more about pigeons, like and I've gotten more into kind of birds as a whole because I'm in my 40s and that's what we do now. I have such an appreciation for just who they are and the way that they form relationships and the connections that they make, and it's so sweet to see how they form bonds. And it's just like us, it's just like any other animal. And I hope that people will start to see that too. There's a lot of pigeon advocacy going on in New York City now, and it's a really wonderful thing to see. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and it's because of people like you.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. It makes me so happy to hear you say that. You're understand. You're looking at birds more and appreciating pigeons. That's incredible. And you have got some amazing people in New York. I know a couple of the ladies. I chat to them, and they're just absolutely amazing people. There's been some quite big stuff go on out there. Some quite hairy moments, I think, recently with people. You've got a guy out there that's catching them and has been doing it for about 20 years, catching the ferals. You're right to use that word. That's the right word for them. Feral, in a little bit of a way that we call, I don't know if you call cats feral over there, but we have feral cats in this country, which are like your farm cats and cats that were once pets and have just run off. And now, so it's the same use of the word. So it's pigeons that were bred for meat and eggs, or for racing or for communication, and then have been abandoned, and it's their ancestors are, like you say, they're not wild, they're feral. Absolutely. And there's a guy out there at the moment that's been caught going out with a big net catching pigeons, so your ferals on the street, putting them in the back of his truck, driving to I believe there's some pet shop involved somewhere, and driving out with to somewhere out of town, selling that big net full of pigeons so people can shoot them. So it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. So again, they're not wild. I mean, nobody should be shooting anybody. It's horrendous. But whether these are, whether they're feral or not, or domestic or wild, they shouldn't be shot anyway. Of course, full stop. But the fact that these birds are not bred for that, they're bred for, they've been abandoned, and now they're trying to survive on the streets, and then someone's scooping them up to make money for them again. You just despair sometimes and just think, what is wrong with people? If we can make money from an animal, we absolutely, I don't mean we obviously, but as humans, we'll do it. It's despicable. But what's been incredible is the response that you've had from the pigeon advocates out in New York and in America. I've just been sat here watching, going, oh, these people are amazing. Look what they're doing. It's incredible. And it does get really vicious. The same way, I know I mentioned at the start, the police getting involved. They're really vicious. They can be really vicious people in the pigeon industry. And that's because there's money involved. There's money, there's pride, and there's that feeling, that we hear all the time about tradition. We hear that as vegans all the time. And it's the same with pigeon people. They go, it's tradition. You can't stop us doing this because we've done it for years and years and years. And it's not fair that you stop us doing it. It's, well, tough. We're going to stop you doing it. So, but it's been absolutely amazing to see what's going on over there. And some of the, we've got quite a strong connection now with a couple of sanctuaries out your way, and with Palomacy, Elizabeth, who runs Palomacy, which is the America's biggest association for pigeons, and she's been in touch, and she's actually sponsored our event, which has been incredible. She's given us some sponsorship, and just having that connection as well is really nice. And horrible to see that they suffer in the same way out there as they do over here. So that's not nice, but inspiring to see the work that's going on over there and seeing the parallels. Yeah, there's lots of people fighting for them now, which is just lovely, absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kimberly mentioned about the bonds that these birds form. And I remember when I had you on last year on the Confident Vegan, that's where I learned more about pigeon racing and how their bond is manipulated. How these birds love for each other is what is like the basis of what happens in pigeon racing. So could you take a moment, Sue, and share exactly what happens in pigeon racing in case any of our viewers are not aware of this really horrible practice?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of different ways that people race pigeons. So we're talking about people with a loft, it's called, which is basically a special type of shed. So it's a shed with glass at the front normally, or wire at the front to stop rats and predators getting in, and a little thing called a hatch or a trap, and that's a door with sort of spindly bits of metal on like that the pigeons can get. They can come in through it and then it shuts behind them. So that's a loft. And they're generally built out of wood. The pigeons will live in there their entire lives. They won't be allowed access to the outside unless there's a specific reason. They will be given maybe in an average size loft, they'll be given maybe the size of an A4. I don't know what A4 is in America, but like a standard sheet of paper that you would write on. They'll be given maybe 2 of those each per pigeon. So a little bit better than chickens, but basically that's the size inside the loft that they have, and they'll live in that area for their whole lives. They're allowed to walk around in there, but you've got sort of 30 pigeons in the 6x4 shed. When they want to race them, they will allow them to fly out, and then because the pigeons, that's the only home they've ever known, and they are able to find their way home, they will allow them to fly out when they're a certain age, and then they'll allow them to fly back in to feed them. So what they'll generally do is they won't feed the birds, they'll let them out, and then they'll shape the food bag so the birds know to come back in. So that's how they start. So you kind of think, well, actually, that's not the worst thing people have done to animals. They're bred for that. They don't know any different. They're looked after. They've cared probably from a veterinary point of view, and they've got good food and good medication, and they're looked after. So not the worst that you could do to an animal. Still, rather they didn't do it, but not the worst. So you've got that kind of pigeon fancier. Then what happens is they take a step a little bit further, and they will let those birds fly further and further for racing. And the way that they do that, as you've just mentioned, is they exploit the bond that the birds have between the cock and the hen, so the male and the female birds. So they will separate the male birds and the female birds into a different loft. Then they will introduce them. Now, pigeons generally in the wild mate for life. So they'll bond up and they will have that bond for life. Obviously, in the wild, pigeons, they come a crop of through hawks or through being hit by cars and stuff. Of course, in nature, or they're prey for other animals. Of course, they don't necessarily always stay together for life, just like any other animal. Animals die. Then they will find another partner. But what ideally they do is they stay together for life, and the bond is that strong. It's the same as with a lot of people and with other animals. They want to stay together as a family unit. So what people will do is separate those birds, introduce them, they bond, and then after a couple of days, they will take the male, generally, they'll take the male bird away again, and they'll put them in a loft just further up the garden where they can sort of see each other and hear each other, and they know they're there to increase the desire for that male to go back with the female. Then they'll put them back in together again. They'll leave them overnight, maybe for 24 hours. So they mate and they bond and they kiss and they're intimate and they sit together and they preen each other and they really, get to love each other. And then they separate them again. And they'll do that around about 3 times. And on the 3rd time, when they've been really understood how desperate they are to get back together and that bond can be really well seen, they will take that bird away again. But instead of taking them into another loft, they will take them in a big lorry with about 3,000 other birds that they've never met, and they will drive them hundreds of miles away and release them. That's called a liberation. So they liberate the birds out of the lorry all at the same time. So there can be 30,000 birds in one lorry, and those birds will have to fly home. And the racing aspect of that is they all have a metal tag on their I was about to say their paws, on their feet, on their legs. And when they come back in through the trap, there's a little connection on there, and it tells the timer what time that bird arrived back, and they'll work out how many miles that bird did in the time, and then they work out which bird got back first from those 30,000 birds. Now, it's not always 30,000. In local races, it's a lot fewer. It can be maybe 100 birds, but that's the principle. The principle is always the same, and that is called widowhood or widowing. And what's really interesting is that's very well known within pigeon racing. That is the way that a lot of people race their pigeons. Not everybody. There's another method called a natural method, which is just basically they don't take them quite as far and they just know they're going to fly home because that's the only place they've got love and food. So the pigeons will fly home. But widowhood is done by a lot of lofts, especially when they've got lots of birds in them. And they will deny it. When you say to somebody in the pigeon racing industry, this is what you do, they will deny it. Yet there are hundreds of books, hundreds of publications written on how to do this. There is food. The biggest manufacturer of food in the world, Bamford's, have 7 or maybe even 8 or 9 now different types of food specifically for widowhood, because during that time the birds are under so much stress that they need a different type of food to keep them at racing weight. And yet you talk to people in the racing industry and they'll deny it. They will absolutely deny that happens. And it's mind-blowing. So even if they'd admit that, I'd feel a little bit more I'd have a little bit more respect for these animal abusers, but the fact they lie about it is mind-blowing. But yeah, so that's one of the ways that they're abused. There's another type of racing that's now becoming quite popular called one loft racing. I honestly don't know whether this is better. Well, it's certainly not better, but I don't know whether this is worse or not. I honestly can't fathom this. So they will breed a bird. So let's say I get 2 birds together and I breed a bird and I go, right, this bird here is going to be the best racer that I've ever bred. So I will send that bird away as a very young bird, about 5 or 6 weeks old once they're weaned. I'll send them away to a loft for a one loft race. The person with that one loft will have maybe 2,000 other birds all coming in from different lofts in the area or in the country. They'll have 2,000 birds in that loft and they will maintain the racing. So you just sit back and wait to see how your bird does. They look after your bird, you pay them, they look after the bird for you, and then they enter your bird into a race. And if your bird wins, you get the prize, or you get part of the prize money. It's called one loft racing. And these races are now becoming really, really popular. So there's a difference. So the emotional exploitation isn't there because these birds are not sort of bonded and then separated. But the awful part about that is these are birds that live in a social flock. These are social animals. These are not animals that like to live on their own. They are flock birds. They're prey animals. You are taking a young bird and never giving that bird access to any form of normality. So they're not able to form familial bonds. They're not able to form bonds with a bird of the opposite sex. They're never able to understand what it's like to go and fly out with their flock. You just take away their whole ability for them to perform their normal behaviours. And what's mind-blowing to me is if you did that with any other animal, the RSPCA, which you have a version of this in America, which is the Royal Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, would come down on you like a ton of bricks. You'd be prosecuted. If you kept a dog in a cage all of their life and didn't give them access to the things that they needed to thrive, you would be prosecuted. And yet, because they are birds and they're domestic birds, no problem at all. If we did that to a wild bird, rightly so, we should be prosecuted, absolutely. But because they are domestic animals, they don't come under the same law as a wild bird. And even though they have the right to be looked after by the laws that the RSPCA and the other people that advocate for animal rights come under, they kind of slip through the net because they're not domestic pets. They're racing animals. So this is the problem with pigeons, is they don't really sit in one box or another. So these people in this industry just get away with whatever they want. It's incredibly cruel. And when their birds have stopped making their money, or if they don't, well, if they come back after a race, if they don't come back fast enough, or they're just getting too old, or they're getting too expensive, or they're ill, the government approved way to euthanize a bird is to pull their necks. So there has to be no euthanasia. There's no kind way of doing it. They just pull their necks. And that's the approved way to do that. So how can this be right? How can we allow people to breed an animal and for that animal to be so disposable that when we have had enough of that animal, we just pull their necks for no other reason than it's not making money? It's absolutely obscene. And I do see the the difference, but the similarities between, say, pigeons and broiler chickens that are in a factory farm. But actually, even as a vegan, I can see that there is more of a justification for that. I still disagree with it. I think it's horrendous. But I can see there is more of a justification for a chicken in a chicken factory because somebody's eating that corpse at the end of it. But with pigeon racing, the only reason they are bred is to make somebody money. So that there is just no justification for it at all. I think it's absolutely obscene. But when I say that to these people in the industry, they tell me I'm crazy. They tell me that, you know, I'm woke and all these. I mean, you will have heard it all. But when you spell it out to people that aren't in that industry, they're absolutely horrified and they kind of go, "This is obscene. How is this legal?" If we, you know, when we raced horses, we do the same thing. As soon as their legs are broken, we shoot them. And it's the same thing. But when that is publicised, there's an outcry. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pigeons that this is happening to every day because there are millions of pigeons being raced, millions and millions and millions. So, yeah, it's just everywhere. But it's so hidden because they're either in a loft or they're flying across the sky. Nobody gets to see them. So unless you're in that industry, you don't know what's going on. Sorry to bring your morning down. It's horrendous, isn't it? Sorry. I know it's awful. I say it with a smile on my face because I'm just like, you can't, it's almost cartoonish in that it's like, how is this a thing? How have we become this species that does this to other animals? But yeah, that's pigeon racing in a nutshell.
And it's so disconnected too. They're not involved with the birds at all. So a lot of sport that involves animals, right? The people are riding them or, you know, killing them, but they're like in the space with them. You know what I mean? And here they just like let the birds go and wait for them to come back. Or they send them off, like you were saying, and someone else lets the bird go and waits for them to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will tell us that they're really well looked after.
What's that?
They do. The majority, certainly, I'm obviously just talking about Britain here. The majority of the people that call themselves pigeon fanciers that are caring for their birds that they then ultimately race, they do love their birds. They do look after them to a degree while they're making the money. Or like with show birds, it's the same as with show dogs. It's exactly the same. There's a whole other sector of pigeon fancy, which is show birds, which, you know, is just a whole other thing. They're bred horrifically into all these weird shapes and sizes. Some of them can't eat for themselves. Some of them can't breathe properly. They can't walk properly because they're bred into these ridiculous shapes with feathers in the wrong places and the wrong eyes, and in the way that we do with dogs. But even those people will still say they love their birds. And the word baby is used with us quite a lot. They're my babies. Well, no. If you had a baby or a child or a loved one, you would not take a toddler, for example. You wouldn't drive a toddler 200 miles away in a car, drop them in a city centre and expect them to get home. And when I use that argument, they go, well, that's completely different. Children can't fly. I'm like, it's no different. Children can walk. Like, how are you saying this is different? It's exactly the same. No, we don't abuse them. They're my babies. They're my babies. If you loved that animal, you would not purposely put them in harm's way. So when they're flying back, they are at risk of, first of all, they're at risk of starvation because there's no natural food for a pigeon at all. There's no natural food for them. They're domestic. A lot of the time, they don't even know where to get water from. Now, pigeons are very intelligent. If they see a water course, they're going to go down and get water if they can. But what happens is they drown because quite often they'll be flown over seas and they've never seen the sea. They don't know. They've got no concept of what the sea is. So they let out of this lorry, they go down into the sea and they just drown because there's no side to the sea. You know, it's just water. And they're so thirsty, they go down and, you know, then they get waterlogged. They can't swim. and they can't take off again. So they just drown. If they're on a race over land and they try and come down, that's when they risk getting hawk attacked. They get catted, so they get caught by cats. They get caught by dogs because they've got no fear of them. They've never seen dogs. So they'll land where there are cats and dogs. Dogs will catch them and, chomp on them. They'll get kicked by people. They'll be hit by lorries. They'll smack into buildings because they don't understand glass. So they'll just hit buildings and break their necks. There's so much cruelty and so much risk in that journey home. And yet those people will still tell me, we love them. We love them. They don't love them. It's a funny kind of love.
Yeah.
It's manipulation, right?
Mhm.
It's what they get out of it. That they love the money and the lifestyle that these animals are providing them. And
Absolutely.
it's very heartbreaking to hear about this. But Sue, the work that you're doing is so important because I feel like more people are now knowing about this because of the work and advocacy that you're doing. And I would rather be crazy. Like I get, people think I'm the only vegan in my family, so I'm looked at as being crazy for that. So, but I'd rather be looked at as being crazy because I'm compassionate about animals and how they're treated than be someone who doesn't care about these things. I feel like, not being empathetic to all beings is crazy, right?
100%.
And that's why what you're doing is so important. And I feel like we could talk so much more with you about that and the work that you're doing with Little Green Pigeon. And I know that you're doing something else. You have the Animal Rights Choir. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, certainly. And it's a slightly nicer topic. Because it is a heavy topic, the pigeon thing. And if anybody does want to know any more, you can just Google us and you can see the work that we're doing. And thank you for taking that on board. Just before I stop talking about pigeons, very quickly, what I will say is what's amazing is in the years that I've been doing this, it's not just me anymore, which is amazing. I'm working with groups of people in the States, in the Netherlands, in the UK, all over the place. There are lots of us popping up now doing the same work, and they're incredible people. So that is fantastic. People are seeing what needs to be done and they're motivated and they're doing it, which is amazing. The Animal Rights Choir. So my best friend is called Jen Armstrong. Her professional name is Vegan Queen V, and I've known her about 4 years now. We met through a mutual friend because she came to do a gig for us I ran a vegan festival when I had my own sanctuary about 5 years ago, and she came and she just got in touch and said, I'd love to come and do a concert for you as a fundraiser. It was brilliant. Never met her before, and she came and we just got on like that, and we've been sort of really close ever since. She comes and lives with us because she's always touring. She lives in a van, so in the winter months she comes and stops with us quite a bit. And sort of in between touring, she comes and stop here, and we're just together a lot. And we're always sort of coming up with different things we could do for advocacy. And in January, when she was here, she went, I've had an idea. Now, anytime one of us does that now, the first thing to do is we get a camera out straight away because we're like, right, this could lead nowhere or it could lead somewhere. And generally with Jen, if nothing else, it leads to a ridiculous conversation that we try and use. So we're like, right, okay. And I'm not saying you should live life through a lens, but you kind of, with advocacy, it's good when something like that happens, isn't it? You just never know. And also, we both talk about so much stuff, and I'm such a gabble mouth that if we don't record stuff, we forget it. So I just happened to be filming her, and we were on the beach walking one morning, and she just went, I've had an idea. I'm going to start a choir. And I went, okay. And she goes, but it's going to be different. It's going to be an animal rights choir. And she just sort of went, like jazz hands. And I was like, oh, she's serious. This is brilliant. And then that just led to like days and days and days and weeks and months of conversations about this. And that was in January. So in June, we launched, and we still don't really know how it's going to look eventually, but what's already happened has been beautiful. So it's online and in person, which is a bit of an odd concept, but it's basically we want to allow people from all over the world to join us. So it's going to look exactly the same as this looks now. It's on Zoom, and people can join in. Because of the latency, we can't all sing together. So for people that don't know about Zoom, basically there's a second or two delay depending on where you are. So if we all tried to sing now, if us three all tried to sing, we would all be at slightly different times, and it would sound horrendous. Even though I'm sure you're beautiful singers, it would sound horrendous. So we don't all sing together. You're saying no, Jen. You're like, no, I'm not. I'm sure you are. So so we don't all sing together. But what we do is Jen Jen and I will lead, and then people can sing along at home, and we teach the parts to everybody. So that's what happens online, and that's every Wednesday night. And then when there is a festival or an event coming up, we will find out who is near that area, who can get there, and they'll come on and we'll perform on stage. So we've had 3 performances so far that have been absolutely incredible. Like, we've had so much fun. We were saying at the start is when you're working hard and it's for animal advocacy, it doesn't feel like work. Well, when you're working for Animal Rights Choir, it definitely doesn't feel like work. It feels like cheating because it's technically work, but we're just having an absolute hoot. And it's singing, and everybody loves it. Most people like to sing. I'm not going to say everybody, but most people like to sing. And seeing the emotion come out of the people in the choir that are singing these songs, and they're all animal rights songs generally that we're singing, to see them joining in and listening to the words that they're saying, and getting that across to an audience in a beautiful way, and seeing the audience's response to that has been absolutely better than anything I could have imagined. It's been, I'm welling up now talking about it. The response has been amazing, because when you're out on the street with a placard shouting about animal abuse or animal rights or go vegan or please be kind, you're met with so much resistance. And that can be, even if you're really, like me, really timid, and you're out on the street quietly. I mean, I'm never out. But even if you're out there being quiet and being polite to people and just speaking in a kind way, it still can be aggravating and it upsets people. But when you're out there singing, that just sounds beautiful. So what we're finding is people are joining in, not really realizing what we're singing about, going, oh, isn't this fantastic? And then they start listening to the words. But also the people that I'm sure you will have met so many times who say they love animals, and they do love animals. They're just selective over to the animals that they love. They will say, oh, I love singing. I'd like to be part of the Animal Rights Choir because I don't agree with horse racing, or I don't agree with foie gras, or I don't agree with this, that, and the other. And they join, and then they realise actually that we're all vegans, but they're already invested then. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they get that link. So that's been really important for us. We're not targeting vegans to join this choir. We're targeting everybody. If you like to sing and you love animals, come and find your voice with Animal Rights Choir. So you're finding your voice for the animal. And they go, oh, yeah, this is great. And we're not tricking people. We're being upfront. We're called the Animal Rights Choir. The person who runs it is called Vegan Queen V. And if anybody Googles me, they'll see I'm so vegan. We're not tricking anyone. We're not fibbing to anybody. But people are just seeing Animal Rights Choir and they're joining and then realising. And it's brilliant that we're having people join. And because they're full of emotion, because they're singing and they're being given that confidence to sing on stage, which is lovely to give that to people. And then they're realising what they're singing about. It's been really special to see that. And you actually feel a little bit bad for some people. You're like, oh, I'm so sorry that we've broken, that there's this awful side of the world and what goes on. But you're having fun, right? So it's fine. so yeah, but from a point of view of joy, there's nothing more joyful than having a stage full. We had 20 people singing at an event called Freedom Fields out here in England. Well, I'm in Wales, but in England when we were over there last month. There were 20 people joined us on stage. We had a little quick practice the day before with them because it was a weekend festival. And the day after, they got up and they sang with us. And it was just lovely. It was so heartwarming and really well received. So yeah, it's been great fun, really good fun, and long may it continue.
Sounds amazing.
It really does.
You should join.
Kimberly, I wish we lived in the UK sometimes. I feel like
I know, me too.
Things are like happening. We, next year, I hope we can be in a place where we can just be there to check out Vegan Camp Out. I know me and Kimberly have wanted to do Vegan Camp Out for a long time, just to go experience it. So maybe next year that can be possible.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, yeah, and I'm sure the choir will be there next year. That we're there this year. We're at Camp Out this year. The choir. We're in the kids section, so we're trying to get the kids involved with the choir this year, and their parents. So that's where we're starting because it's so new. We're just starting there. But yeah, hopefully next year we'd like to think. I'm an optimist. I'd like to think we'll be on the main stage singing next year when we've got 100 members. So maybe you've got to aim high, right? So
that's right.
So you can come and join us on stage at Camp Out singing animal rights songs next year. That'd be amazing.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Camp Out is great, actually. Yeah. It's really good. It's quite. Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to bring the drama, like I always do. There's a big argument you say about being in the UK, but the problem with being in the UK with things like this is we're such a small country comparatively that then when something like Vegan Camp Out is on, everybody argues about it. So even within the vegan community out here, you can't have people going, oh yeah, this is great. Everyone's arguing about should it be held here and should it be held there and what are the ethics and but I love Camp Out. I think it's how amazing. Like if I think back to when I first went vegan or when I was a child and I was vegetarian, I can't imagine a world where I think this year that it's much smaller this year. They've reduced the capacity. It's 7,500 people this year are going to be there. That's 7,500 people in one big field for a vegan event. That's incredible. When I was a kid in the 70s, I would never have thought that was possible because, like you said, it's only vegan in the family. Same. And as a child, I was the weirdo. I think I probably still am in our family, but that's for other reasons. But yeah, it's like you're just very much on your own, aren't you? And now there's all these other people in the field with us as well. It's amazing. So I love Camp Out. Anything that celebrates veganism, I think is just, it's got to be done. So you should definitely come over.
I think we should, Kimberly.
Yes. Start planning now.
I just love how the idea of the Animal Rights Choir came together. And I love how you're doing it in a fun way, right? Like you were saying before, like there's the other ways of promoting veganism and showing the horrors of what happens in animal agriculture. And all of that's very important. And that's one way to bring people over. But it's important to have different ways, different tools, different ways to showcase it. And by doing it in a way that's fun and you're doing it in a way that's family friendly, right? Where children can get involved and kids can, lead the change and lead the conversation at home because you're doing it through a way that's, family friendly. And so I feel like this is so important to have another outlet to promote veganism in a way that can be appealing to everyone and do it in a way that's fun, right? Planting seeds for people, maybe they won't be vegan that moment, but you planted a seed and they had so much fun. And I think too, vegans get such a bad reputation, that you're showing that, hey, hanging out with this group of, fun, weird vegans is actually a lot more fun than not hanging out with them. Like I need more people like this in my life. So you're showing people not only a fun way to learn about veganism, but also showing people that vegans aren't just these, serious, terrible, people who are just trying to change the world and, make them, change the way they're living their lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's really kind of you to say that. Yeah, really kind. Yeah, exactly that. We do just have so much fun. And I mean, obviously, it's hard work. Of course it is. But getting it together. But yeah, and I think you raise an important point is that the perception of vegans, as you say, being these sort of like militant is a word that gets bandied around here quite a lot. Militant vegans who are just trying to ruin your life. I would love to think that. So this year, all the performances that we're doing live, all are at vegan festivals like Veg Fest and at vegan fairs. And that's really important because we're just dipping our toe at the moment, trying to see how this is going to work. I would like to think that next year, maybe the year after, but I would like to think by maybe this time next year, we would be at festivals that are non-vegan. Because people will not say, I'm against animals having rights. There's very few people that would actually say, I agree with animal abuse, right? It's not something that people say. So if we can go to a festival, and now on stage it's the Animal Rights Choir, nobody's going to be like, boo. Everyone's going to be like, oh, what's this? And then they'll see us perform and they won't know the songs because they're animal rights songs. But I mean, they might. We do like John Lennon's Imagine. We do sort of other songs as well occasionally. And that's right. They'll just see a group of people who love animals. They won't know we're vegan because they won't know enough about us by then. I love the idea that we can kind of infiltrate the mainstream in a joyous way, bringing people together with happiness and songs and that kind of thing. And then, then when they come and say, oh, we'd like to join. Yeah, of course you can. Absolutely. Get involved. Come and join. And then they'll understand. So, yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very aware and Jen's very aware that then that might make people go, oh, hang on a minute. No, like, you're vegans, no, we're not interested. But I don't think that's going to be the experience for most people. I think for most people, they're going to be so welcomed in that they won't care about that, and they'll just want to come in and sing. And then, yeah, it's just those little switches, isn't it? Just all being flicked one by one, and on, you know, that's their start of their journey. So yeah, we're just trying to make it as much fun as we can, basically. And that's why we're like, it doesn't matter whether you can sing or not. If you enjoy singing, that's all that matters. It's really, yeah, it's good fun.
I love singing, and I'm not great at it. So I appreciate that you get to be unmuted on Zoom so no one hears.
Yeah, you do.
I like singing karaoke.
Yeah, well, there you go. If you enjoy karaoke, it's the same. But it's led to some interesting dynamics because we've been practicing on a Wednesday night, practicing online, and then we've got to a festival, and we genuinely, Jen and I, do not know how this is going to sound because we're asking people to do harmonies and do different parts, and then it's only literally until we start singing a song we're like, is this going to sound any good? But so far we've been pleasantly surprised. We're like, yes, everybody sounds great. This is great. It's fine. Yeah, but I mean, we had some people join us at the last one, and they were like, no way will I ever sing. And then they watched the rehearsal, kind of joined in the background, and then by the next day they're on stage. And there's one guy who's actually a really nice friend of mine who was like, I'd love to get involved, and I enjoy singing, but I don't want to sing. We were like, well, do you know what? Just stand back from the microphone then, so that you're not directly in line with the microphone. We'll still hear you. And do you know what? Even if you just want to stand there and wave or clap or join in, there's one song that Jen wrote, Vegan Queen wrote for National Animal Rights Day, which, as you know, was the 1st of June, called Our Planet, Theirs Too. And honestly, that song, it's an earworm for me. I think I sing it in my sleep because we had to sing it so many times because we recorded it a few months ago in a studio out here, a video. And then we started teaching it to people, and we sang that at the last few festivals, and we've released a video. It's on YouTube. There is it was directed and edited by a lady, a producer out in Poland, and Jen obviously wrote the music and wrote all the lyrics and all that, but she injected this bit into it, and it came back quite sort of Euro pop, and we didn't expect that at all because it was a piano melody. And the way it came back, I remember me and Jen listening to it when it came back and just going, oh, this is not what we expected. But then these big smiles on both of our faces going, oh, this is brilliant. We love it. But there's a bit in the middle, the bridge, as you would call it in music, and it just that goes on for so long. But that's the dancey bit. But it goes on for so many bars extra than you expect that you sort of dance along to it and you're like, when will this bit finish? And it's all a little bit awkward. But because of that, people start doing the most crazy dances. And then kids get involved, and the grannies are getting involved, and and the dogs are getting involved, because it goes on for, I think, about 45 seconds, which is a long time in the middle of a 4-minute song to be just no songs, just no singing, just dancing. And everyone gets up and gets involved, and then it finishes off the last bit, and then we've got a little dance for that. We try and get the audience. So yeah, that's the song we tend to finish on, certainly at the moment, and that is the one that's leaving people just high, like leaving them, you can almost, for a minute, I know we're talking about, you know, Our Planet Theirs Too is all about animal rights, but actually it's quite a gentle song lyrically, and we're just leaving people with joy rather than with the despair that is in a lot of the vegan community. And we need to be joyful about our veganism. We're doing brilliant things, all of us.
Yeah.
I love it. We probably should wrap up soon. Sue, I feel like I could talk to you all day. I love your energy.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask Sue before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Sue, was there anything that you want our viewers to know about that you haven't shared already?
I could tell you very quickly about the conference that we talked about at the start, just for a couple of minutes, if that's all right. We're going back to pigeons again now. I established an association for the National Pigeon Advocacy Association that you kindly mentioned at the start. We're having a conference in September. It's in 4 weeks' time, and we are not prepared, but we will be by then. It's myself and 2 other vegan animal rights activists out here that have got a specialism in pigeons called Sam and Shakira Free. And it's in Staffordshire in England. And it's been sponsored by a lot of vegan organisations. A lot of UK charities have got on board, which means that we've managed to keep the ticket price really low. We don't make any money from it. It's a not-for-profit. And because of the sponsorship that we've received, we've managed to keep the ticket prices fairly low so most people can attend. So if anybody would like to know more about pigeon welfare, it's a day of education. It should be absolutely wonderful. And that's on the 20th of September. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That's really great. Kimberly, we really need to go to the UK.
We do. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We will.
Come for Camp Out, because Camp Out's at the end of August. We'll probably be doing another pigeon conference. So just come and stay for a month and then we'll do all the things.
I think we
Perfect.
should. Our husbands can fend for themselves for a month, right? They'll take care of the cats and we'll just hang out in the UK for a month.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, ladies. I love talking to you girls. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this.
Yeah, I love talking with you, Sue. You just your energy is so inspiring. Whenever I talk to you, I'm like, oh, she's doing such amazing things.
Well, so are you. We all are. We all need to big each other up. We're all doing incredible things. All gonna fight the fight and bring joy to the world.
Exactly. And the world needs more joy right now.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for now. Wow, this was a pretty long episode, but we go longer when we have guests. Yeah. So because because we want to give people a chance to share the amazing things that they're doing, and you're doing a lot of amazing things, Sue. So thank you so much for showing up today out of your busy schedule and just have this wonderful conversation with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. And if you catch the replay, just continue the conversation. Oh, thank you, Richard. Richard just said excellent show topic. Thanks for watching, Richard. And if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments. Me and Kimberly will continue the conversation in the comments below. And if you have any questions for Sue, we're gonna we'll include her links in the notes below the video on the replay. And if you have any other questions for her, you can always let me and Kimberly know, and we can pass them along as well.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye for now.
Bye.